We're wrapped up here in Qatar with Max leaving with the Drivers' Championship and the whole entire grid leaving with near-death experiences. It's lights out, and away we go for episode 122 of the Eating Asphalt podcast. Oh boy, was that something, huh?
That was
just a different race than I've ever experienced.
yeah. As far as talking points, this is just one of those where you just lick your chops and you're like, oh, there's almost too much to talk about to where like our jobs are like a lot easier trying to prep for the podcast.
Thinking about the race itself was harder than everything else that kind of came around driving in Qatar, dealing with Qatar, and the FIA just being kind of the FIA when it comes to these situations. So, like Ian said, we have quite a lot to talk about on this very interesting race weekend. We have our good, bad, and ugly, our gambling paddock, race recap, and then our race predictions recap. So moving right into our good, bad, and ugly. Ian, care to start here?
Sure. I would like to go. My good is going to be Twitter battles. I'm sure we're going to talk about safety. But there was obviously the faction of just like the protect the drivers, being like, oh, yeah, the people are going to die soon if we don't careful, nerds. And the Will Buxtons and Martin Brundles of the world that had the opposite take that I did not see coming. I'm a part of the nerds, by the way, that think like that was pretty dangerous to drive. But Buxton and Martin Brundle just being like, this is why these drivers are elite. Like, if you don't understand it, that's because you're not a driver. Like they be put in conditions that challenge them and show why they're at the pinnacle of their sport. And boy, was there a lot of back and forth. Will Buxton lit Twitter on fire. Martin Brundle, I thought was going to get canceled for the show because of how canceled from the broadcast because of how much people were just dogging him. But yeah, a lot of back and forth, which always makes for it's the best when you have a race on Sunday morning and then just the rest of Sunday just looking at Twitter exploding in front of your eyes.
Yeah, it's hard to find a slant on this, but the fact that two pretty big heads in the sport took that and took it hard, you don't see that often.
No, I'm glad someone did. Whenever there's too much of an idea going around, there's something in me where it's just like, all right, well, who's on the other side of this? Martin Brundle.
You think like Troy Aikman or Terry Bradshaw came in, they're like, actually, like CTE is fine. It's not a big deal. Like, these athletes are smarter than the typical athletes, and they can fight CTE. It's not a big deal.
They live longer than most other people, is what I heard. So
yeah, exactly.
My bad, I'm going to go with untimely interviews. Oscar Piastri getting told that his P3 sprint shootout was going to be P3 and didn't stand. Best possible timing that it could have happened. You're literally, imagine being the interviewer being like, how do you feel being, top three? Like, just give us a line. And he's like, oh, wait a minute. You shouldn't be here. Sorry about that. Skedaddle.
Yeah. I also liked how she basically was like, oh, I don't know if you've heard this, but you might have lost this poll. Like, I've been here the entire time. When I don't have anything in my ear, when would I have ever heard this? I just came up here. Of course I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, at what point would I have heard that, lady? Like, when would I?
Oh, you didn't hear about this? That there's a chance you're not going to be P3 and you're going to drop to P6? Oh, well, here you go. Thoughts?
Yeah, sorry. And my ugly, there was a lot of ugly, but I didn't want to overlap with yours. So I'm just going to go with Andretti. It feels like literally nobody wants them there. And it just kind of sucks. They're literally like the nerd at the lunch, at the lunch cafeteria, like trying to sit down and everyone's like, seats taken. You know what I mean? Frank came out. I think Gunther came out. Toto came out. Christian came out. They're just like, no, like, we don't want a team to join. And so I think I fooled myself in getting like kind of excited about it, being like, all right, let's go. Another American team, completely forgetting about Haas, as I do. But sounds like they are a no-go because they need the teams to accept them into their circle. And I don't think anybody's doing that right now.
Yeah, I tried warning you last week. I said they got through the FIA. I don't think it's gonna happen. And long and behold, I didn't think it was gonna be like it seems like a 0 out of 10, okay, kind of thing. But I mean, I even saw FIA coming out, and I'm full on team FIA here. Very rare, but they were basically like, "Hey, I think we need to do more teams, less races. All right, this is getting out of hand. The drivers, like the teams and drivers, already complained about less races. But if you're going to have less races, you're going to have to find ways to kind of grow the sport, get more money, get more people, get more eyes. This is, I think, a fair way. Then having people to buy into that and getting that additional revenue of other teams coming in. There's 12, every track has 12 spots for teams. If we're going to do one of them for Netflix and do their thing, that means there's one more team that they can have there. So I like it. I fully, like I said, on the side of FIA, I don't understand what, if it's like, hey, this is like a boys club, like, you know, what makes you think you can come in, or what a team has to provide for a team, for the rest of the teams to be okay with it, unless it's just, hey, 200 million is not enough. We need 600 million.
Could just all be negotiating like that. Like they're just trying to anchor, like, oh, we need $1 billion. Sorry.
Yeah, I wonder what, like, once these teams say now, if there's like a formal thing, what the process is again. Because I think they're already past the FIA part, but I don't know if this is like an annual thing that they have to revisit. I can do some digging, but at the top of my head, I have no idea.
Turn Marco.
All right, good, bad, and ugly. My good is going to be, I think it's pretty easy. McLaren. If there was a great, bad, and ugly, they'd be my great. Because if you take a look at, like, you could take a look at this weekend a little negatively in the fact that they were quick enough to take quals. I mean, they were right around Max to win this race as well. But they took the sprint shootout. They took the sprint, and then another double podium, something, like we said, doesn't happen outside of Red Bull this year. Double podium got them into podium number 500 and 501. So the second most of all time. I think Ferrari had like 815. So there's a little bit more to go on catching up to the big boys. But just huge weekend for them in that respect. Huge weekend in the fact that Oscar Piastri, first win as a rookie. Obviously, it's a sprint shootout. It's a sprint win, so a little different, but already one more win than Lando has already. And just to hear that another car was quick enough to beat Max, I think in and of itself shows that, like, for them to be there this weekend and consistently over the past couple of weekends, it's just something that no one had on their bingo card, especially because they were the second or last team, like showing in like their practice and before the season. So I think this was just an awesome weekend for them.
Yeah. McLaren's going to win a race before the end of the season. Like, that's just going to happen. I think. Yeah, dude. I know. And I know you're probably thinking, like, Ian, how do you stay so consistent all the time with how you feel about McLaren throughout the season? You've always been kind of a never say die toward McLaren. You know, how can you keep this up? And this is how, because that's, you know, at the end of the season, we get vindicated. Dude, USA win for Lando? You kidding me?
What? Get out of here. Yeah, dude, join the, like, I would like a third team to join the We Want to Race this season. That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah, come on over, dude. Water's hot. We're just from Qatar because it's really hot over here. The water's super hot. Actually, it hurts.
Like a problem.
All right, my bad is going to be Sergio Perez. Pretty easy bad for me as well. I truly don't know if he wants to drive anymore. Like, this is how I kind of have pictured it. You know, when you're at a job, you don't really like the job, but you're like, hey, I don't want to quit. I don't want to look bad and then just have like an issue of finding a new job. So especially in this economy, it reminds me of Perez and Red Bull. Like, he's putting in, it seems like the very bare minimum. I should have looked at what his point score has been the last, probably since like summer break. It cannot be good, especially for the car he's in compared to Max. It's getting very bad, but I think he's putting in the bare minimum now and just waiting till they get the call for, like, hey, we're moving on. I'm sorry, it's just not working out. Obviously, we heard the rumor, or the Horner quotes being like, he needs to drastically improve. It's a big problem. I don't know. Do you think drivers get severance where he's like, hey, let me just keep half-assing it. They make me quit and I get a month and a half.
Like,
and I get to roll in some extra benefits.
if they do get severance, Red Bull drivers don't get severance. If you get five
Yeah,
people,
it's in their, that's specific to their contract, being like,
yeah,
no.
Helmut Marko's like, actually, I am going to use that money. It's mine now.
Yeah, sorry. Actually, you pay us for us firing you. So,
By the way,
uh,
just looked at Sergio Perez's results recently. 10th in Qatar, retired in Japan, 8th in Singapore is what we're looking at. So he
yeah,
has a grand total of 5
three,
points in the last
5
3.
points. Yeah, dang. Yeah, so that's not great, I would say. But yeah, I mean, like, I think this is kind of weird where he got a lot of heat for this. And right when he said this, Helmut Marko saying that, like, hey, Perez, the South American mentality, he's not strong enough like Max. Ever since he said it, Perez has been pretty terrible. Huh? Maybe this racing bastard is onto something, huh?
We'll cut that.
We don't condemn that. We're just joking. That guy's a bad guy. All right, my ugly. Like Ian said, I think it was just something that we just got to get out there. Ugly, the Qatar Grand Prix. I'm just going to spill through as much as I probably could think of. There might be a little bit more of issues that we had, but let's just get it all on the table. Sargeant had to retire because he was sick. Ocon threw up in his helmet lap 15 and continued to drive. Pretty sick. Dashboard video of Stroll barely getting out of his car and then walking straight to the ambulance, basically knocking on the window, being like, please help me. I'm fucking dying right now. Also said that the last 20 laps or so, he was blacking out almost every single time on a hard corner. Rumors that other drivers were getting medical attention immediately after the race too. Russell thought he was going to faint. Albon needed help getting out of his car. Alonso got burns from how hot the car was and was asking to get water poured on him to help alleviate the heat. Leclerc said it was the most difficult race of his life for all the drivers. I will say, outside of that, at the very end of the race, when they were interviewing Max, all this stuff is said, all this stuff they had in there, and they're like, hey, Max, like, a couple of these drivers said it was the hardest race of their life. He's like, no, it was really hard. They're like, is it the hardest race of your life? Nah, like top 5. Fuck you, Max. Everyone else is fucking dying out here. And he's like, oh, not me. This is hard, but not super hard. I'm assuming the other 4 races were just like times that his dad was like tarring and feathering him, driving it on the track. And he was like, hey, like this is way worse. Maybe let some fire around the edges, be like, oh, you know, fucking stay between the lines. So that's what I'm assuming is probably the other races are due to father neglect or attacking. So maybe understandable there. But
so honestly,
yeah, it's probably a really good bet that his 4 are like scarred due to his father doing something, leaving him, I don't know, on a random gas station in the middle of the road saying, get out and driving away. Maybe that could be one of them. I don't know. I mean, I would say let's try to spin zone it. They only have another 9 years at this track. And I'm sure that they said, they're like, oh, this is just a bad time to be doing it. Next year, it's going to be a lot cooler. I don't know if a month doing it differently at this place is going to be like, oh, this is breezy. It's going to be 75 and sunny. And weirdly enough, it's weird that they didn't see this coming. It's not like we were like all these difficulties come out of, maybe they would have known it with another sporting event recently in Qatar and some of the issues they had like building up and kind of setting up the track and then are setting up the event and then maybe having the event. Maybe they had to change the times during the day to at night because it was so bloody hot and players just couldn't survive doing that. That would have been really helpful for the F1 and the FIA to be like, hey, this might be a problem. But only for them to find out actually at that weekend and then having to do as much of like band-aid control as humanly possible. So
they could have known.
Spin zone. It's nothing they could have done. No.
So
shame on them.
I will say listening to the broadcast, I got hype when Fernando was saying like, hey, I mean, hype is probably the wrong word. I was interested when Fernando was like, guys, the seat is burning me. Like, can we put some water on? And the guys were like, are they just going to like dump a bucket of water?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I was glued.
I thought so too, dude. I was like, dude, we needed this.
Glued to the TV being like, what is this going to look like? Like, is it just like a bunch of like minions coming in and like dumping it over or what? But
they were like, yeah, for how fast these pit stops are, this can be hard to do. And I was like, I'm sure he would take like a 4.5 second pit stop for someone to have a bucket, just get his backside and then just keep driving.
And then what though? And then are you just like driving around with like water in your cockpit, like sloshing around between your like a gas and brake?
I guess, dude. I think that's. I mean, they drive in the rain. It's some
True.
bad rain can kind of build
Yeah,
up a little bit. I don't know.
good point.
So that was fun. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what we said. How we started the episode. Just a bizarre. And the way global warming is continuing to go, we might see a lot more of this. So we'll see.
Yeah, get it up to 115 degrees next time.
Yeah, dude. No one died yet, so I think we can keep pushing the level. Let's get it going, guys. Huh? Huh?
Huh?
All right. That does it for our good, bad, and ugly. Moving on to our gambling paddock. All right, gambling paddock. I will go first. I did mess up on mine because I was looking at initially the sprint quals,
I saw that. You're a cheater.
which would have been very helpful for me. But I had Liam over Yuki in quals, not sprint quals. Missed that. Lando not finishing the top 3. We'll still never give up on that. Lost it. Head to head, George over Lewis. That's the only one I hit. So I lost $10. Not terrible.
Not bad. I lost my Verstappen to win by 10 seconds and fastest lap bet. I lost my both drivers from Red Bull to finish in the top 3 bet, but I won my at least one Ferrari driver not in the points bet. And that was a half unit. So what are you going to do? But
I was curious. You're probably right on this. Like, you know how they say, like, driver has to start for this to happen?
Yeah.
Did that not matter?
No, yeah, it didn't. It on the on the screenshot, it usually says like on MGM.
Oh, it'll show you like the results or whatever.
It'll say like driver has to start or something like that. Like
Gotcha.
I was worried about that too, but I went back and on BetMGM they had like, yeah,
nice.
So it can't get me. But anyway, $3 out of the weekend. 365 to 368. So on my way, dude.
Look at congrats.
We suck.
We're not good. We're not good. Well, that does it for our gambling paddock. Let's move on from there. Moving on to our race recap.
All right, race recap for the Qatar Grand Prix. Starting out for everything before the race. So the pre-race antics from F1. First time that maximum tire stints were enforced in Formula One. So they let us know before the race, you cannot race more than 18 laps on a tire. Pussification of Formula One, let the boys race. I want to see some shredded tires. I was curious of how they got to the 18 laps part. Like obviously I'm sure there's some like equations, some math going on in there. But I just feel like if the number was actually 17 and someone popped a tire on 18, but they said 18 laps, is it their fault? Do they have to find themselves?
Great question. I don't know. I thought 18 was just insanely low. I agreed. I know this is like high speed, high like intense corners and the heat, everything is involved. But 18, I feel like with a hard, like you put the hard compacts on, they could do better than that, right?
Yeah, but they didn't. So that was interesting. We had the Lance Stroll fiasco, him going out in Q1 on Friday, pushing his engineer just because he botched qualifying again, or not his engineer, it was like personal trainer or something like that. Either way, throwing hands with someone in the garage is not cool. Obviously, we talked about Oscar winning his first race in McLaren before Lando on that sprint. And then just the main story being track limits, dude. Everybody seemed like they were struggling with track limits except for Max. And yeah, it just seemed like you could get excited as soon as a driver came over the line, but you knew you had to hold on for an extra like minute or so to see if the actual, if that time was actually going to count. Just a tough look. And yeah, obviously Oscar just getting that P3 spot and then getting demoted down to P6. You don't like to see it, I'll tell you that.
He handled it better than anyone else could have seen handle it. He like joked it off, and then when he spoke again, like on Sunday, he was like, "Hopefully you don't take me off again." That's pretty sure if you did. So yeah, handled it very well, especially for a rookie, and like probably every race like this, no matter if you win, lose, or like if you have a good outing, pretty exciting. So yeah, I thought that was tip that to this guy,
Yep.
All right, moving on to our P5 McLaren, Lando Norris P10 up to P3, and then Oscar Piastri P6 to P2. 47 points on the weekend, led the all constructors on points this weekend to 219 points, only 11 points behind Aston Martin right now. So they are swiffering behind them right now. But both rather unlucky, exceeding track limits on Friday and Saturday. Lando, like we said, had the pace to take pole, was just very hard on himself Friday and Saturday, basically just been like, the only problem is me sucking. Seemed very depressed. And a lot of people that even don't like Lando, I saw some people, they're like, not a big Lando fan, which I don't know. It's hard for me to see that. But they're like, man, I feel bad for this guy. Yeah, so he was taking very hard, but turned it around on Sunday very well. A podium finish. Piastri, like we said, first ever sprint, already more wins than Lando. And then another thing that I forgot on the great, bad, and ugly that I should have added, the fastest F1 pit stop ever was McLaren this weekend at 1.8 seconds.
Animals.
So, I mean, I guess good things can come from extreme dangerous heat.
Yeah, you go faster. You turn up the heat, you go faster.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So overall, like I said, I think this was just a fantastic week for McLaren. Nothing really could have gone wrong. Like went wrong. I know they had some little hiccups, but handled that with just ultimate class on Sunday and pace. So good job.
Yeah. Moving on to our P4 in the Constructors' Championship, Aston Martin, 9 points this weekend, so moving them into 230 points. Lance just seemed to be a nightmare all weekend. I think actually now the FIA has stepped in. As we're recording this, I don't think like any kind of like verdict has been reached at all, but I know that they have stepped in to be like, hey, daddy's not going to reel you in here. Someone has to be an adult and say that these things aren't okay to do. So that's tough, just being a real dickhead all weekend.
Big temper tantrum from this guy.
Yeah. You got to think it's like entertaining to be in Fernando Alonso's chair. He's actually like mopping the floor with Lance Stroll. And it's not like if he were at Red Bull and he was mopping the floor with the teammate would get cut. But he's at a team where that other driver is not going to get cut. And he just looks like a legend every weekend in comparison to this other guy. So yeah, I mean, keep it up, Fernando. I got nothing against you just absolutely sloshing a billionaire's kid who pays for the team. Got to think that that's probably going to come to an end at some point. Rumors about Lance going into tennis professionally. So that's cool.
That's solid. I'm sure he can just pick that up pretty easily, right?
Yeah, dude. But anyway.
Dude, I mean, I'm starting to think, now this might be just going overboard a little bit, but I'm starting to worry that maybe like what if Alonso isn't that fast either? It's just his teammate is so bad that he doesn't really have someone really to like kind of actually compete against and be like, hey, two normal, strong, like well-deserving F1 drivers going at it. Let's see where they rank. Because you have no idea where this guy Stroll is so below right now that you don't really have like a good comparison being in the same car of like, is he actually as good as the other 18, 16, 15 drivers up there?
This is why we need at the end of the season, everybody gets to pick a name out of the hat like of a team, and then they go drive that car. Just testing, but they see how quick they can put a lap in. And if it's faster, if it's faster than the other guy at Barcelona, then be like, all right, well, he sucks. You know what I'm saying?
No, we can keep adding a summer break or end of year season, something like that. It's got to be an all-star break. You have your two highest guys in the two highest drivers championship leaders, captains, and you go one back and forth. You pick your team. Everyone is in the same fucking car though.
And then
it's like, and it's kind of like Ryder Cup where it's different events. You choose Russell really great or Lando really getting quals. You're going to be the qual guy. All right. We're going to do like blah, 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 pit stop guys, pit stop team. But making this an all-star weekend, I think would be fantastic. And it shows, hey, where everyone actually kind of stacks up.
That would be the most Americanized thing that F1 could do, and everybody would hate it, but it would be the best entertainment. Everyone would tune in.
I think that would be the best weekend, the most viewed weekend in Formula One. And the winner gets home like, I don't know, money or something to drive for.
Break him off some moolah.
Get him that. Come
Ready
on.
coming in.
Come on. I mean, they're about to get that Apple money. Might as well show them a little bit of moolah, huh? What do you say? All right, moving on to Ferrari. Carlos Sainz, P12, tough quals to a do not start, actually. And then Charles Leclerc, P5, sticking to that P5. Sainz read the writing on the wall. I wonder if other drivers, knowing what the outcome was and what they had to endure that weekend, if they were like, hey, something was wrong with our car as well, actually. Like, we're not doing this. I think there might have been a couple. I think Sargeant would have been definitely raising his hand, being like, I don't want to do this anymore. They claimed it was a fuel system problem. But I mean, I would have said the same thing too if I was on there Friday being like, this is bad. And starting off pretty bad at P12, being like, this is a pretty easy decision to say, okay, no thanks. So good on him. And then just, they've been kind of that fourth fastest car the last couple of weeks. So yeah, it is what it is. I think I'm kind of on to next year. Hopefully we can maintain this third place. I thought that was pretty in lockdown, but if McLaren keeps doing what they're doing, might be fighting for a third place. So hopefully we can just get into the off season maintaining that podium spot.
Yeah. I think you're safe.
I think so. I think so, but it's like there's a chance.
Yeah, there's definitely, it's like in question with if McLaren can keep putting up like double podiums back like so many weeks, then
dude, that, and then they get the one win that you already called. We're kind of worried now, now this is like, I don't know.
Here come the balls.
I was hoping to catch up on Mercedes, but that is probably not going to happen.
If they keep crashing into each other, it might. Speaking of,
we need Sainz to drive, that hurts.
You do need Sainz. You need Sainz to be in that car.
Yes.
Speaking of drivers crashing into each other, let's talk about Mercedes P2 in our Constructors Championship, 21 points for a grand total of 326 on the season. Lewis Hamilton P3 to a DNF, George Russell P2 to P4. Lap 1 contact between these drivers was everything that was, basically like all that everybody was talking about. Great top of the line Twitter entertainment between just Mercedes fans who are Mercedes fans versus just Lewis stands. Lewis took responsibility and said it was my fault, even though he said, yeah, I got taken out by my own teammate. The Hamilton Mafia didn't know what to do with that information. They were going back and forth of like, yes, it was George's fault. He's like, well, he's just saying that because he's like a really good guy.
So nice.
And then walking across the track, that's a no-no, Lewis. Wag of the finger. Can't walk across the track. People drive fast on that. Which honestly, I think that should be, if you get hit by the car, then you get fined. But if it's like jaywalking, you can jaywalk and it's okay. Just don't be an idiot about it. I think that's one of the biggest like idiotic rules that they have. Walk across the track. Don't go all the way around. Don't be nerds.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the wag of the finger ended up being a like 50,000 euro or pound fine, which is crazy. And I was thinking they're doing that because it's like, oh, safety concerns. Does FAI get fined for the safety concerns this entire weekend cost? Because that was way worse than what Lewis had to go to. And they're like, oh, we'll give you, if you don't do another instance like this for the rest of the season, you get half of it back. What?
It's like
it's nuts.
It's yeah. That's a really good point about like, hey, you put yourself in danger. It's like, well, you also put me in danger this weekend.
You put 18 other drivers. Maybe Lewis did a signs and was like, dude, this is too hot. First corner, I'm going in for it. If it doesn't work, I'm so happy that it didn't work. So
not a bad idea to just like,
because it was pretty obvious, like from I think right off the bat, looking at it, it was like he just drove right into George. There's nothing George could have done. He was stuck there. So I think maybe Lewis was like, I'm going to be so aggressive. If this helps and gets me out in front, gets me out like to fight and moves me up, I'm going to do it. But if it doesn't, I'm going to be in the air conditioning.
Yeah.
So he had a pretty chill Sunday as well. So good on him.
Good for him.
All right, moving on to the Red Bull Team Drivers Constructors Championship. Max Verstappen P1 to P1, Sergio Perez P13 up to P10 in the points. 34 points on the weekend, 657 points on the season. Christian Horner basically said Checo desperately needs to improve, which is, I mean, he did show support. Like, we're going to do everything we can to, get behind him and get him back to form that he had been at the beginning of the season. But like, we do not have a fight in our drivers like you see in Ferrari, like you see in McLaren. Like, we don't have that currently. So I think this is very fair for Christian to say after what the car they have, the difficulties we're seeing. I don't think there's really too many excuses that you can keep giving him. So I think this is all fair. And I don't know. Like I said, I don't see it giving the push he needs. I think he's pretty checked out. It's probably a lot to deal with that Red Bull team. And when you're struggling, really difficult to deal with. So, and then on the other side of things, Max, obviously this is just a matter of time. I think they should get a little crazy with it. I think they should try, different things with the car. I also think that if we all saw the comparisons in a couple of races with the rear wings being different between the two drivers, I want them to just straight up be like, hey, look, we're not touching these cars. They're getting up and they're switching cars and see where that goes. Max drives as 11, Sergio's number 1, and then we'll just see let's really see if these cars are any different.
They have nothing to lose. There's no reason that they shouldn't just have fun. I mean, I guess Sergio's only 30 points ahead, but at this point, if you're only 30 points behind or ahead of Lewis Hamilton in P3 in the Drivers' Championship, then you have to deal with the adversity of Red Bull having fun. Drive without a rear wing, drive without a front wing, take out your side pods. No going into 8th gear. I'm chock full of ideas, but they just, you had your time to get your points, Sergio, and you haven't.
Tires, you can't have 4 of the same tires at any time.
Nice. You have to have 4 different tires.
Oh,
rear, soft, medium, hard.
Okay. All right. Now we're talking, huh?
It's probably just pirouetting.
Yeah. This is a disaster. Well, that does it for our race recap. Let's finish off this episode with our race predictions recap. All right, I'll go. My for sure's how many cars don't finish 3. I said douche of the day with Stroll.
I'll give you that.
I'm back to back on douche of the days. That's hard.
You're locked in. Douche of the day. It wasn't. It's douche of the. Technically, it was douche of the week, kind of.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it there's no other alternative.
Yeah, that was just preposterous. If you do that in any other type of work setting, you're gonna get in jail. They're gonna sue you.
Yeah. And then I just had so Marco going from 31 to 33 points. I just had my Max weekend where I was allowed to guess Max winner, Max fastest lap, Max pole. I'll take my 3 points. Now we're at 33 to 22.
33. Max.
America. 33. Nice. 22.
Nice.
You?
Yes.
22. You're right. Bang.
Nice. Little guy. No?
Yeah. All right, everybody. That'll do it. Fun race to Qatar. A lot of stuff to talk about. We'll be talking about it for a while until we go to America at COTA, Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Until then, I think you'll probably see a preview episode from us talking about the track. But I think that's everything. We will see everybody in about a week's time.
Danny's coming to Nashville this weekend.
Who is?
Danny Ricciardo.
Oh, is he going to stay with you?
I'm not going to be home, so he can stay at my house. He can take everything he wants. Yep.
Careful.
I'm going to try to get some reporters. I've been working on my peeps, trying to get some reporters out there and interview them. A little sideline reporting. We'll see if that works.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I already have some things like, hey, this is so-and-so from the Eaton Asphalt podcast. Anyway, attack.
All right, that'll do. See you, assholes.
See you, assholes.
Hey, thought you could leave without saying goodbye. used to say I live my life a quarter mile at a time. And I think that's why we were brothers. Because you did too.